Okay, so here I have the Hurst short throw shifter for the Camaro. A little expensive. I think I picked it up from Summit for around 450 bucks or something like that. And from what I've researched, absolute pain and for a short throw shifter go to put in. So let's see if we can get it into the car and let's see if it's worth it. Here we go. All right, but before we throw the new one into the car, we got to figure out where the old one sat before to see if it's worth it. Now, Hurst claims 40% throw reduction. What does that mean to you? I don't know. It doesn't mean anything to me except for maybe it's shorter. So let's measure the stock throw and then we'll measure the throw from when we get the Hurst in it and see what the numbers are. All right, forgive me, I'm going to have to do this in kind of cutscenes. But right now I'm sitting in third gear, and from the in between the heater vents, I'm sitting at about 4 inches in the center of the shift knob. Now I went ahead and dropped it down into fourth, and it looks like we're sitting at about 6.5 inches, halfway on the shift knob. So from 4 inch to 6.5, the 2.5 inch throw from third to fourth. So all I'm doing is going straight down, going up to third, and then going straight down to fourth, and about 2.5 inches throw from right here on the shift knob. All right, so step one, I'm going to be removing the bezel on the inside and the shift knob and all that, and then these 4 screws. So we're going to get started with that first. So according to the instruction, all I got to do and use, so these are just cheap pry tool that I got from Harbor Freight, I think, and all I got to do is use it here to pry up. But I'm going to take a minute to do this and be real ginger with it. I'll let you know if I run into any problems. Okay, so trying to get into here, I couldn't do it. So what I ended up doing is just lightly prying against the parking brake and then getting a tool into the back and prying up from there. And it's nerve-wracking because I don't want to break anything on that car. And as you know, they're just small plastic clips. All right, next, using a T25 torque screw, you go in from the driver's side right here, there's a torque screw. You got to undo that. Okay, now we got to remove this rubber, which will give access to 4 screws underneath. There we go. And then there's our 4 screws. So I'll get those out and then we'll start underneath. Okay, used a 1/4 inch ratchet and a 10 mil socket and got those out. Kind of a pain to get to, but it's doable. So now we have to go underneath the vehicle. Now, I'm going to warn you right now, to install this short throw shifter, you have to remove the exhaust. So this short throw shifter actually been sitting on my workbench for over 2 months waiting for me to get the money and get the exhaust to the house. I'm replacing the exhaust at the same time. So we'll remove the exhaust, but I'm kind of not going to go over that too much on this video. You got to remove the exhaust, the drive line, some heat shields, and some other stuff. So let's get to that. Okay, exhaust is out. Now on the short throw shifter instructions, they want you to remove it from here and from this clamp. Like I said, I'm doing the Corsa X pipe and catback. So I followed Corsa instruction and cut it here. Should give me enough clearance. But next we have to remove this, the drive line. You got to make sure that you mark the drive line. So I'm going to mark the drive line, remove this brace, remove this heat shield, and then remove the, I forget what the donut's called, but drive line donut. We got to remove that, drop the drive line. Then we have to remove the brace, put a jack under here, remove the transmission brace, lower it down to gain access to the top of it. It's going to be a pain, but here we go. Okay, with the exhaust out of the way, it says to remove the 4 13mm bolts. There's a bracket up there, just trust me on it, you'll see it. Remove that, and then 10mm, 3 on each side of the heat shield. And I have to somehow get this heat shield out of here without screwing stuff up. Alright, so next step after the heat shield's out is to remove the drive shaft. It's pretty easy. Just make sure the parking brake's off, the car's in neutral so you can rotate it around. I have a electric impact that made it super easy. So I removed that, and then now it's saying remove the 2 10mm bolts up here. I can actually start to see the shifter, so that's a plus. This is an absolute pain for a short throw shifter, I'm warning you. Okay, so Then you have to remove the 4 bolts for the transmission cross brace. And then we got to lower the transmission down a little bit until we can get to the front of this thing up in here. Yeah, pain. I'm telling you, pain. Okay, next step, it's really hard to show. There's these clips up in here, and like there, I'm kind of touching it. Yeah, you can't see anything. But they're way up in here. There's spring-loaded pins. I'll get one of them out and then show you what it looks like. I have no idea how I'm gonna get it out, but it's gonna come out. Okay, so here's the pin. I'll move my hand. There's the pin right there. There's a little detent on the inside of it, and you got to rotate it around and then push that little detent down and somehow get a screwdriver up through here to pry it. Just watch all this wiring and stuff because you'll break stuff. Okay, I'm gonna warn you, that job isn't for the faint of heart. This is an absolute pain. So getting the little pins out of the side of here, I'll go over that on the bench, but right now I'm dealing with the shifter won't come back because of where it sits inside the tunnel up there. Like, I can't get this assembly out. So I'm going to try to take off these and then see if that will separate that and I can remove it in 2 pieces. Okay, I'm going to try to explain this to the best of my ability. So this is the orientation in the car, the front of the car up here. So this pin sits in here like this. And there's 2 ear of the transmission on either side, like a fork like this. So you get your hand jammed up in there and you push this down and you start prying it out and it gets stuck right here. It gets stuck right there. And the only way to get it out is I just shoved a screwdriver in between the transmission ear that sits right here. I just shoved a screwdriver up in there and rotated the pin and just kept rotating it and pulling on it until finally it came out. You have to do that for both sides. Then on top of that, this would not come out in one piece. So this is the orientation looking at it from below. The shifter shaft would not come out of the tunnel and this over the top of the transmission. So what I ended up doing from underneath, I took out those 2 10mm right there. If you're under the car, you'll see what I'm talking about. I took out the 2 10mm, slid the shifter shaft out, and then this came off from the top of the transmission. So now I'm going to get everything swapped over from the Hurst and try to get this thing back in. I'm sure I'm going to have to put it back in 2 pieces. So here we go. Okay, I got it all back in there. It will go back in there 1 piece, but like I said, easier to get it out of 2 piece. It's a pain and it's really tight. But got it all back in there, got the drive line on, got the heat shield back in there, got the cross brace back in there. So that's the short throw install. I mean, I'm telling you right now, it was an absolute pain. I'm sure I'm going to love it, but it was a pain. If I wasn't doing the exhaust also, I probably wouldn't recommend doing it. But if you're going to do the exhaust, then might as well do the short throw at the same time. So hopefully that was helpful. Another small issue that I ran into doing this that I wanted to point out to maybe help somebody else out is, so on this, the shift boot is in between the 2 pieces right here. And the instructions say that you have to pry these clips out in order to get it apart. So I'm prying like crazy from inside here, just down into these slots, prying like crazy, and I ended up messing up the little latches just a little bit. You can see they're kind of chewed up right there. Maybe. So what ended up happening, and the shift boot actually glued to this. You can see where all the glue residue was. And instead of messing the up, what I should have done from the get-go, how I finally did get it off, is, so with this all the way pushed on, I pried down here, but then I also stuck something in between the shift boot and the metal ring and pried from there and actually got it to separate. And then you have to tear this part off. You got to tear the glue off of the Alcantara. So a little nerve-wracking, but it all ended up being okay in the end, besides chewing up the original shift knob just a little bit, but it'll still work just fine. One of the things I did want to bring up with this is you're getting rid of a very nice shift knob. The Camaro shift knob that comes with this is actually very nice. It's Alcantara, it's weighted, the whole 9 yards. and this is just plastic. There's no weight to it at all. I like the looks. I like the feel. It's a lot bigger than I ever thought it would be. I think I'm bigger than an actual cue ball, but yeah, so you're getting rid of a really nice shift knob and going with just a piece of plastic, but it's the look that I wanted, and I like the feel of the shifter. Okay, so here's what the short throw looks like installed in the car. It actually looks amazing. Right now it's sitting in third, so again, I can't do this with holding a camera in one-handed. So we're just going to measure to the middle of the stem from in between here. We're sitting right at 4 inches. Sitting right at 4 inches. Now, put it down into gear. We're sitting right just past 5. So that's not coming up on camera. It looks like it's 6. So let me get a better angle. So there it is. It's 5 1/4. So 1 1/4 inch throw from third to fourth. So we went from 4 inches to 5 1/4. So 1 1/4 inch throw from third to fourth. And I gotta say, it definitely feel different. So it feel almost gated. Very short shifts, very short throws. When I first installed it, I've had it installed for about a month now, to be honest. But when I first installed it, I thought maybe I went too far. I kind of didn't like it when I first, like the very first drive. And after that, I've loved it ever since. So yeah, absolute pain to get into the car. If you're only going to keep the car for a couple years or whatever, I wouldn't do it. It's a pain to do it yourself. I'm sure it's going to be expensive to pay for it. And the short throw itself at $500. So if you're going to pay somebody, you're probably, rough guess, $1,000 to $1,500. If you're going to do it yourself, then at $500 and a lot of cussing. So, but I'm glad that I did. I'm keeping that car for the rest of my life, and it'll probably get passed down to the family. So I'm definitely glad that I decided to go with the Hurst short throw, and I'm loving it so far. Hope this helped. If you like the content and you want other people to see the video, then please like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. That's how it pops up on people's feeds. So thank you very much. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you on the next video.